Hi, welcome to another episode of Energy Works. I'm Blaine. I'm doing a solo episode today, and the topic is Yin and Yang. And I'm doing it because our podcast editor and producer, Sarah, suggested it to me. We were tossing about ideas. She's studying Eden energy medicine, so she can converse with me about all things energy. And she said, Blaine, a lot of people don't understand what yin and yang means, but they are curious about it and they would like to know. And so she suggested it as a topic, and I love suggestions. So here we are. If you have suggestions, please send them my way, either in an email or in the comments on YouTube, or you can join our newsletter list. If you go to energymedicineyoga.net, then you can just scroll to the bottom, join the newsletter list, and any newsletter we send, which we send one every Tuesday, and sometimes we send more, but every Tuesday we send an inspirational newsletter. Often we are teaching a technique or a tip or something that has gone on in our life. Lauren or me, we take turns writing them. For the purpose of inspire, some education, some entertainment. But my point is, if you hit reply to any of those and say Blaine, then that always comes to me. The person who manages the support box, Megan, will always send it my way. And we reply to all of the newsletters. So yin and yang. Yin and yang is the concept that the Chinese created about duality. And many of you have seen the yin yang symbol, and I'll explain to you what that actually is. It has evolved over time. What you see at the gift shop today is exactly how it looked at the beginning. The concept was a mountain and light and dark. So they were dealing with the duality on planet Earth of light and dark. And if you can imagine a mountain on Earth, and the sun rises and to the east, and as the sun starts to rise, then one side of the mountain starts to receive light, and the other side of the mountain is still in dark because it is a big mountain. And so at the beginning, the mountain is almost all dark. There's a little bit of light. And then the sun continues to rise, and there's more light on one side of the mountain, but the other side is still dark. And then the sun continues to rise, and there's even more light on one side of the mountain, but the other side is still dark. But the relationship of light to dark on this mountain is changing, constantly changing. So, of course, there's the whole mountain. There's a tree on the mountain. There's a rock. One side is light. One side is shaded. And so the earth continues to turn. And then there's more and more and more light. And then there's a moment where the sun is right on the mountain, shining on top of the mountain. And then all of a sudden, it goes to the other side of the mountain. And the side of the mountain that used to have all the light now starts to have shade. And the side of the mountain that used to have all the dark now starts to have light. And so we have this duality, this ever-changing duality of the light and the dark as the sun goes over the mountain. And then it sets in the west, and then there is all dark again, right? And so through the course of the day, this mountain has this ever-changing relationship of light to dark. And so they depicted this in a way, in a drawing, this changing of light to dark and dark to light. And that's what you see now in the yin yang symbol. Like I said, it's been, I don't want to say tampered with, but it's been changed from the original way. And there's a Chinese name that's not yin yang that the original depiction was called. So that is probably familiar to you if you've seen that yin yang symbol. But what it is, it's all of the duality on Earth. and in life and in animals and plants and all of us, within us, without us. So I'll check off a few, or list off a few examples here. So yin is left. The left side of your body is yin. The right side of the body is yang. Yin is feminine. Yang is masculine. And by feminine and masculine, I don't mean gender. I mean energy. Feminine energy and masculine energy. Feminine is yin. Masculine is yang. Feminine is receiving. Masculine is giving. We already said the light and dark, but that's, with all colors. A light blue is more yin. A dark blue is more yang. Yin is cold. Yang is hot. Yin is contraction. Yang is expansion. I'm trying to see if there's any other ones I can think of. The sun is yang and the earth is yin. So we have this expansive, light, hot. All of these are yang. Contractive, cool, dark. All of these are yin. What is important is that, like the mountain, it's always in relationship. You cannot just look at something and say that is yin or that is yang. It is only yin or yang in relationship or in comparison to something else. So I'll give you an example. Yin is soft and yang is hard. And so if I had a piece of, we'll say a piece of paper, just like a Xerox piece of paper. If I had a piece of paper and I had a brick, which is yin and which is yang? We would say that the Xerox paper is yin because it is softer than the brick, which is yang. So the brick is more hard, stable, solid. Yin is more hollow. So Xerox paper, yin, brick, yang. But then if I had a piece of silk and I had a piece of Xerox paper, which is yin and which is yang? The silk is yin, it is softer, and the piece of paper is yang. And so this Xerox paper, I can only say it is yin or it is yang if I'm comparing it to something else. On its own, it's neither. It's a moot point. There's no yin or yang. So yin and yang is always in comparison. And I think that's an important distinction or something that people don't realize. I can't classify something as yin or yang unless I'm comparing it to something else. Even myself, am I yin? Is Blaine yin in nature or is Blaine yang in nature? Compared to what? You always have to think, compared to what? In Chinese medicine, we have the 5-element theory, which we've talked about a lot, and then we have meridians that are in each of the elements, and they are in yin-yang pairs. And our body, the back of our body is yang, and the front of our body is yin. So if I'm comparing the back of my body to the front of my body, that is, back is yang, front is yin. And you can think of the back of your body or the back of your arm. My arm, I have like this kind of top side, and then I have the inside. And so one side of my body, my back or of my arm or of my foot, it's a thicker skin. It's a tougher skin. It's not as sensitive. And then the front of my body, or like the armpit side of my arm or the sole of my foot versus the top of my foot, it's a more tender skin. It's an easier to damage skin. And at the touch, it feels more sensitive. And so when we think about the sun is like the ultimate yang. I will say on planet Earth, the sun is always yang. I think in the solar system, our sun could be yin because there could be some other star that was hotter and brighter than our sun. But when we're looking at our sun, there's nothing hotter or brighter than our sun. And then we have our Earth. And so when we talk about our yang and yin energy and where we draw this from a nature perspective, the yang energy comes from the sun through the top of my head and goes down to the earth. So the yang meridians in my body, that is how they run, from my head down to my feet. My yin energy, remember, yin is dark and cool. If you dug a hole in the ground, right, what would that be? That would be dark and cool there. And so the yin energy goes from the soles of my feet and it gets drawn up from the earth through my body up to my head. And so the yin meridians run from the feet up to the head, and the yang meridians run from the head down to the feet, because yang, sun, up overhead, is the ultimate of the yang, and planet Earth beneath our feet is the ultimate of the yin. So I'll just touch on the 5 elements a little bit because they do work in pairs. So the element of water, the 2 meridians are bladder and kidney. Bladder is yang, kidney is yin. So that is the yin-yang pair of our water element. The wood element is liver and gallbladder. Gallbladder is yang, liver is yin. So that is the pair there. Fire is special. There's 4 meridians in fire. However, they still are paired up together. So triple warmer is yang, and triple warmer is paired with circulation sex, which is yin. That's also called pericardium in other traditions. And then small intestine is yang, and small intestine is paired up with heart, which is yin. So we have 2 yin-yang pairs in fire. Earth is spleen and small intestine, spleen and stomach. Stomach is yang, and spleen is yin, and metal is lung and large intestine. And lung is yin, and large intestine is yang. And so these meridians running through our body work in yin-yang pairs, and the elements that we talk about all the time in energy medicine yoga have these meridians that are in yin-yang pairs. And so as an energy healer, when we are working on balancing someone's energy, yin and yang is a very primary, very important thing that we look at. And then once we can ascertain the yang or the yin is maybe a little out of balance, then we can start looking at the specific meridians within the yang or the yin, or there's many other aspects that we can look at. But it's a primary thing that as an energy healer, and when I'm looking at my own imbalances, just one of the first most basic things that I consider. Recently, in several podcasts, I have been discussing aging and how when we age, we really need to nurture our yin. We need to nurture not only our hydration, our water, but we need to nurture our rest. Because if we are too yang is this work, press, build, grow. That's all yang energy. Yin energy is rest and recover. And you have to have both. Imagine if on planet Earth, there was just sun, 24 hours a day, sun, sun, sun. There was never night. What would our planet look like? Or the opposite. Imagine if it was just night, 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 and there was no sun. What would our planet look like? What would we look like? And so planet Earth, we live in this balance of sun, growth, and then dark, cool, rest, sun, hot, growth, dark, cool, rest. It happens every single day, but it also happens every single year. It's happening in its own way across the planet all of the time. When we go to the gym, if we are trying to build muscle, when we go to the gym, we pick up weights and we are actually damaging our muscle intentionally. We are lifting heavy weights, a bunch of repetitions, and we are creating micro tears in our muscle fibers. That is what we want to do. We reach fatigue, right? We can't lift anymore. We have little micro tears in our muscles. Then we don't lift on that muscle again for a day or two. The muscle rests, recovers, heals, and it heals stronger than it was before you lifted the weights. So then 2 or 3 days later, you do it again. Tear the muscle, rest, rebuild, get stronger. Tear the muscle, rest, rebuild, get stronger. And over time, you have bigger, stronger muscles. But if all you did was tear them down, tear them down, tear them down, and never let them rest and recover, then you would have a very weak, damaged, injured muscle. The rest, arguably, is more important than the work you do in the gym, the work you do to rest and recover. That is when the healing happens. Your body heals when you rest. During the day, you are eating, you are exposing yourself to sun, you are oxidizing, you are running around breathing air that is not the cleanest, drinking water that is not the cleanest. You are exposing yourself to damage all day long. And then you get in bed and you turn off the lights and you go to sleep and your body cleans all that damage out and you rest and recover. Rest is critically important. And so that's why in aging and longevity, I have been teaching so much about working with water. In the 5 elements, water is the most yin of all the 5 elements. Of course, they all have aspects of yin and yang. Fire, of course, is incredibly yang, even though there's yin within fire. Water is incredibly yin, even though there's yang within water. So working with our water element as we age so that our body is renewing and replenishing and renewing and replenishing, and we're not avoiding giving our body time to rest and repair from the yang aspects of our life. But again, we always want balance. If we are too yang, go, 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 then that is out of balance. But some people are too yin. Someone who's depressed and can't get out of bed is probably leading a very yin lifestyle. People who do not get off the couch, or even maybe someone's writing a book and they have a deadline. And day after day after day, they're just sitting at the desk working on the book, sitting at the desk working on the book. That could be too yin. And so this yin is slower. Yang is faster. Yin is heavier. Yang is lighter. So you get this kind of slow, sluggish, and it's hard to kind of get up and go so that you can do more things in your life because your yin too can be out of balance. That is a very quick and somewhat high-level description of yin and yang, but I hope that it is starting to resonate with you and you're starting to understand why, as energy medicine practitioners, we're looking at yin and yang all the time, not only in our own bodies and how we're moving throughout the world and how we're choosing to spend our time, but also when we are working in partnership with others, helping to have them balance their own energy. As a yoga teacher, some practices I do very young. They're very physical, hard practices. There's a lot of moving. You might get hot and sweaty. Sometimes it's yin. You're sitting and meditating or stretching for a really long time, barely moving. You need to do both for the balanced body. If you have any questions, please hit me up, let me know, and I will see you next time on Energy Works.